It's a privilege that and a unique opportunity that from Greece here, from the city of Katerini, we transmit live to you across Europe or in other parts of the world. And this is taking place and it's happening because a good friend of mine, Pavel, in Brussels, in Belgium, has initiated the idea that we should do something for the sake of the truth and for the sake of dignity regarding Jesus Christ. For you that you are watching, it might be a little bit strange and alienated the way that we are going to talk today. And the subject of our presentation today is If I Were the Devil. To introduce myself, my name is Dr.Mouroutis. I'm director for the New Life Institute, a non-profit organization that is promoting prevention, good health, and the greatest message of all time for the eternity, the message of hope for Jesus Christ, a Savior, Redeemer, and Healer. And our mission, and my mission the last 15 to 16 years, not only in Greece, in Cyprus, and all over the world, is to proclaim the glad tidings that the Lord is not only good, the Lord is full of grace, is coming soon, and He's the only one that can really bring healing and salvation. Because without healing, salvation cannot be grasped, and salvation with no healing in physical or emotional or existential level is worth and profit of nothing. If I were the devil, and for sure on the Lord's Day to talk about the evil one is not the best thing, but to cut the long story short is a surrealistic approach from the eyes of this covering cherub, that he was in the scale, the hierarchy of heaven, second in the rank, and he lost the greatest position that from God Almighty was given to him. So, to come into the point, what I would have done if I were the devil? The first thing that I would have done, as you can see, is that I will make life so petty and unworthy that animals were more valuable than the human beings. And today, human life is worthless. People are killing each other for no reason at all, or for reasons that really have no dignity. This picture here was taken from a photograph, and the person that was awarded the Pulitzer Prize, sometime later he commits suicide because he could not stand the reality of this picture. And today we breed animals at home, we take good care of them, and it's good to have your animal. I have my pet as well, my German Shepherd, and my German Shepherd is a vegan also, because I want to have the best health for my dog, and in the Bible it is written that we should take good care of our beasts, as it is written. But to change the priority and to care more for animals than for human beings, this shows a kind of perversion. If I were the devil, I would promote a perception of obsession with things and not in people. Today people are obsessed really and possessed with stuff. That's why we stuff so many stuff in our lives and we become alienated. If I were the devil, I will shop to death, buy to the end, and spend everything. Materialism means that you spend money you don't have on crap you don't need. And today, if you look around, and especially in the Christianized world, the video that you saw from CBS in the beginning, it was a small documentary, less than 5 minutes, showing how the Christian Europe has been de-Christianized and has been alienated in paganism or in atheism. And the missionaries that they were left from America and in Christian Europe to go to third world countries to make people disciples of Jesus, Now it has come on the other way around, and Europe has to be evangelized again. This of what we have come to know was revival and reformation of the real primitive apostolic Christianity. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 19 to 21, it is written that lay not up for yourself treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through, not steal. And verse 21, that is very important from the mouth of the Lord, for where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. And it's important, where is our treasure? Where we pile up treasure. John Wesley, this great man of God, said it is just as wrong to store up treasure on earth as it is to do anything else Jesus told us not to do. And believe me, the faithful remnant and the Christianity today is doing many things that Jesus didn't command to do so. If I were the devil, I beg your pardon that I have to name many times the name of the evil one, but forgive me for that. I would create so much selfishness in man that he would lose his respect for God's creation and destroy it by leading himself to extinction. And we see that the world is going down. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to know and to see and to perceive that all hell's breaking loose. We have many natural disasters. And by this we imply an act of God. In the United States there are many insurance companies that they don't insure anymore or secure their clients because they say or they claim it's an act of God. So it's not God involved. It's somebody else. And by coming to disasters, I just want to refer to this presentation and to bury the tomahawk after that. As I did in the last week and last Sabbath in Greek language, the same almost presentation, because I have been asking what is my opinion about this pandemic and this epidemic and if it's so dangerous and this and that and up and down and left and right. And because I'm fed up with all these things that happen and I have more important things in my life than this so-called pandemic and crisis, I just want to show and to pinpoint some things that needs to be addressed. Here is from Harvard University, Robert Smerling, MD, faculty editor, Harvard Health Publishing, the good news about the coronavirus pandemic. I don't know about you, wherever you may live in Europe or elsewhere, but you don't hear good news about coronavirus, COVID-19, as is the trade name of this new novel virus that is not so new as you will see. Most people with COVID-19 recover. Now, I just want to clarify something straightforward in the beginning. Do not please, after this presentation, I don't know how long it will take, an hour, 2 hours, we'll see. The technician here, Theodore, says 4 or 5, till the Sabbath is over, we'll see. Do not take any part of that, just cut it and wrap it and present it. If you want to show this presentation, please show the whole stuff. I apologize about my English, it's not my native language, and I hope that one day you will speak also Greek, is the language of heaven, but we will see about that. So, don't say that Mr. Mouroutis, Dr. Mouroutis, this person, as a scientist or anything else, I have claimed that. I'm just showing what the experts are presenting. Most people with COVID-19 recover. Estimates now suggest that, watch out the number, 99% of people infected with a virus that caused COVID-19 will recover. 99%. This is from Harvard. It's not my words. It's not fake. It's not a hoax. It comes from Harvard. So the experts say this. Now, why in the mass media of information or distraction, as I dare to say, they keep on bombarding your brain and your peace and tranquility, saying the other ways around? I don't know. I do know, and you will know. Now, some people have no symptoms at all, and while thousands of people have died, the overall death rate is about 1%, or perhaps even lower. far less than MERS. This is Middle East Respiratory Syndrome. About 34%, the MERS virus had 34% fatality. SARS, severe acute respiratory syndrome, about 11%, or Ebola, 90%, though higher than the average seasonal flu that has 0.1%. Children seem to be infected less often and have milder disease. The number of new cases is falling where the outbreak began, like in China. So what from Harvard comes from is that 99% will recover for those that will be infected, even though asymptomatic. If I'm not infected at all, then will be no panic on the Titanic. So why the panic? A fiasco in the making. Who signed March 17, 2020? Professor Dr. Ioannidis, Greek origin. He is a professor of medicine in Stanford University. And he's not just a person. He's director of the Center for Research and Prevention of Stanford. He has in Renburg for the prevention of diseases in the Statistical School of Stanford. And he is a director of two centers for novelty in Stanford, Anti-Cancer Institute. And in 2005, he produced a paper. He's a very well-known researcher that has the most citations in the scientific community. 1.1 million citations he has in this paper, and the name of the paper is, now listen carefully, Why Most Scientific Articles Are Not Scientifically True. And in this paper, Dr. Ioannidis is prescribing and describing why most scientific research articles are not scientifically based, because they have bias, they have conflict of interest, etc., etc., etc. That implies that when a scientist or a researcher comes to me and says, I have a published paper, let's say from JAMA, Journal of American Medical Association, British Medical Journal, Nature, Science, Scientific American, New Scientist, name it, it doesn't imply that always, because it is published and has gone through peer review, as we say in science, that is scientifically true. That's why afterwards, when they do the so-called meta-analysis of a scientific paper or a research, they find and they discover that they have a lot of flaws. What about now that we don't have even a research, because we're in the beginning, in the midst of a pandemic, and you proclaim and you give so much panic to the people? And Dr. Ioannidis from Stanford says a fiasco in the making. As the coronavirus pandemic takes hold, we are making decisions, now watch out, without reliable data. So it is written by him. So British medical collaboration, systematic reviews. What you see here is a published in 2020, 28th of February, benefits and harms of the human papilloma virus, is the HIPV and HPV, and the vaccines that have been produced, so-called for the young girls not to be contaminated and polluted and have, condylomata and other forms of cancer. Comparison of trial data from clinical study reports with corresponding trial register entries and journal publications. So this is the title. What implies this published scientific paper is that the vaccines that have been produced for the HPV infection for girls or for men now, when they compare the trial data, they see that the entries and the data conflict each other. And one of the great researchers and a medical doctor from Denmark, Dr. Gotcha, he was the director of the Danish Cochrane collaboration. What is the Cochrane collaboration? Is a non-government organization that the work of this organization is to take studies and analyze all research and see if they have conflict of interest and bias and the flaws. And they do a lot of meta-analysis. Dr. Gotzer was the director of Cochrane, the Danish Cochrane collaboration. He has produced a book about mammography, that in reality what he shows there is that mammography produces no benefit and a lot of harm, and the Hippocratic principle is primum nil nocere. It's better to do good than to harm. And here is his latest book. You can buy it from Amazon, Deadly Medicines and Organized Crime. How Big Pharma Has Corrupted Healthcare, from Peter Gotze here. He's a medical doctor. And in this book, if you read it, he explains sound and clear, safe and sound, that the pharmaceutical industry completes and fulfills the presupposition of a mafia organized crime, the way they have polluted, infiltrated inside the medical society, the doctors, the politicians, and they are, as we say, in good English, if I dare to say, a rotating door. So everybody gets inside and is rotating, and the three participators are doctors, pharmaceutical industry, and politicians. And where they meet, like Siamese brothers or sisters, they meet at the money. Money makes the world go round. And why me, as a scientist, as a researcher, as a human being, as a stupid Greek, why to have faith and trust to a pharmaceutical company, let's say like Johnson & Johnson, that is producing the new vaccine in a speed time for the new coronavirus, and even though someone that has an understanding of basic virology or microbiology knows that the virus is mutated either with an RNA or with a DNA cover, it then makes no difference. It mutates. It has to do like this. It is in the nature. As long as the human being in the laboratory will not interfere. Why to trust Johnson & Johnson when Johnson & Johnson officially has been convicted by the Supreme Court of the United States with a penalty of $2.2 billion in 2013, for example, for fraud, for specific medications that he has given to the public. Even though they have gone through scientific trial and research and they have produced the data and the FDA has approved these medications, later on came out that these medications, they have a lot of problems and the company has done a lot of fraud against the public interest. And it's not only Johnson & Johnson, it's GlaxoSmithKline with $3 billion, he's the leader, $3 billion, Pfizer, Abbott, Eli Lilly, Merck, Amgen, AstraZeneca, and you go on and on. Why for me to trust these crooks? No, I have no trust at all. How a medical doctor, how a scientist can come outside to you, to the public, and say, I trust that the researchers in the laboratories from the pharmaceutical companies, they really care for you and they want to produce medication or vaccinations for your safety and good health, when they have been caught time and again for fraud. Who's the fraud? Who's the crook? Someone has said, the one that pays you to say the truth controls the truth that you will say. And today, instead of the medicine and the medical society and the scientists to direct the pharmaceutical companies what they need, we need medications, but we need it in lesser form and not so aggressively. Instead that the science will divert or navigate the pharmaceutical company, it goes vice versa. And that's our problem and challenge. Till yesterday night at 2:30 in the morning, this morning, according to the World Meter Info, is in real-time statistics, coronavirus cases is 1 million from COVID-19, 1,090,915 registered cases, and we have 58,505 people dead. From this number, 765,000 people, 95% that were infected from this 1 million, almost the 75% is in mild condition. That means mild condition, they will recover. 286,510 cases which had an outcome, good outcome. 220,008 percentage of 80%, they have fully recovered and discharged from the hospitals. And here, read it with me. According to early estimates by China's National Health Commission, about 80% of those who died were over the age of 60, and 75% of them have pre-existing health conditions such as cardiovascular diseases and diabetes. And this novel coronavirus case fatality rate has been estimated maximum at 2% of the infected rate. That means it's nothing compared with SARS or MERS that have a 34% fatality rate and 20%. 2% is nothing, for sure. Every life is very important and sacred, especially to God's eyes. Well, I don't argue with that. But don't try to create havoc and panic out of nothing. Now, let's make some good science here. Because if I were the devil, like our topic is today, I would have done anything that this kind of knowledge or information, I will not say truth, because it sounds too arrogant, but this kind of information and this kind of access in this information will not come to the most people. Let's see the mortality of this new so-called coronavirus. The paranoia of mass panic with a language of numbers. Let's start, if we do science here, with a point of reference, because we have to have an axiom. We have to have a stable situation. What's the point of reference? Is the mortality rate. Assumption. The population fluctuation of each country in normal circumstances depend on the relationship between the birth rate and the death index. It's very logical. That means if the birth rate is higher than the death index, population growth occurs. And if the birth rate is lower than the death index, population decline. It's very logical, very sound, very safe. I hope that you follow me. All scientific studies in relation to this corona epidemic are based on evidence that is changing from time to time and moment to moment, and is therefore worthless, simple assumptions that are doomed to remain a hypothesis. Because it's constantly changing, so that I could not have a steady reference point. Any reliable approach to corona mortality should start from assessing the situation compared to a stable data. And in this case, the only fixed data is the death rate characterized, now what's that, by each country. For example, the death from all causes over the course of 1 year. That means I just take the data from the last year, 2019 in Greece, and I see from all causes how many people died, and then I have a stable reference. This is the characteristic. In such an approach, my friends, that those you're watching or you're about to watch, if such an approach is attempted, the numeracy of the centers of power and the means of mass stupidity media, this is how I don't say mass media, mass stupidity media, which constantly sparks the panic of the corona pandemic, is dissipated. At last, but not least, when we talk about herd immunity, you have heard this expression, herd immunity, the herd immunity. And by the way, what means herd immunity? Herd immunity means that the greatest amount of population, let's say in Greece, has to be infected, almost more than 50%, the 60 or 70% has to be infected. And because the immune system gets the memory and can fight back the virus, and that's a solution, by the way, then this immunization, natural immunization of the mass population is a kind of defender, is a kind of blockade, is a kind of stoppage to the virus promulgation. That's herd immunity. But let me clarify something. When you talk about human population, you don't say, if you're a scientist, herd immunity. You say population immunity and not herd, unless those scientists and those politicians, they consider us that we are animals. Or we're guinea pigs in a laboratory and they just experiment with us. Otherwise, you don't use as a scientist, as a medical doctor, the terminology herd immunity when you're referring to people. It's degrading, okay? So, I think that we have the point of reference, the mortality rate. Let's see 2 countries. Greece, my place. The data that we have, the mortality rate in Greece is 9.3 in the last year, 2019. The population of Greece is 10 million people. The death rate is 9.3 in 1,000 people. This is Eurostat, statistical data. This means that in a population of 10 million with a death index of 9.3, the expected quote-unquote normal deaths from all causes is 93,000 people in 1 year. That means in Greece, last year we had 93,000 people that died from all causes. Divided by 360, that's a mathematical year, corresponds to 258 deaths each day. Question: during this one virus invasion in Greece, more than 258 deaths are occurring in Greece daily? If it is really so, if it's yes, that it's not, how it turned out to be proven true? How you can prove it that you have 258 people dead from coronavirus? We don't have in Greece. Till today, from the outbreak, we have 50, how many people we have? 50 people dead. And you will see that these dead people are not from coronavirus, all of them. You will see it in a while. Just wait for the devil. Speak of the devil, as it is in English. If not, if they don't die 258 per day, why we're constantly talking about a deadly virus and why we're taking lethal actions against the society? Lockdown. If you don't have this mortality rate, as you have to follow up as a scientist. And the index, for the sake of comparison, it is noted that in Greece, in relation to influenza, till 11th of March this year, we have 238 serious cases were found and 90 deaths from influenza. And of this, 92.2% it was in a high-risk clinical group. That means they have subjective other diseases and fatalities. Let's go to Italy, because a lot of fuss is going for Italy. Now the focus has been shifted from Italy to Spain, and you will see that Italy, Spain, Greece, the southern part, because they have already corrupted and almost broke down economies. That's why a new referendum will come, new ways to get more loans from Germany and other European countries, and this way you can manipulate through the economic crisis governments and the nations, because nations have to be extinguished from the face of earth in the new world order. Italy. The data, what we have, and we talk science, safe-based science. The mortality rate in Italy is 10.3. Italy has a population of 60 million. The death rate is 10.3 in every 1,000 people, last year's statistics. This means that in a population of 60 million in Italy, with a death index of 10.3, the expected normal death from all causes is 636,000 deaths per year, divided by 360. I repeat that the mathematical year is 360 days, corresponds, watch out this number, 1,766 deaths per day. Question: during the one virus invasion, more than 1,766 people death occurring each day in Italy? For sure, no. If it's really so, if they die every day, almost 2,000 people per day, how do you prove it is right? And if not, why you're constantly bombarding my brain and my tranquility with a deadly virus, and lethal actions are taken against the society? 2017, deaths from pneumonia by AIDS, you had 13,167 people that they died in Italy only 1 year from pneumonia. Not from influenza, not from other, only from infection of the upper and lower respiratory system. See this number, 13,000 deaths. Why in 2017 we didn't have a pandemic? Why they didn't create all this fuss? You're going to ask me, yes, but why we see the pictures and why we see this and why the hospitals? The hospitals have been crashed out in northern Italy, that is the richest place in Italy, and at that time they have the greatest anti-vaccination movement in Italy, in Lombardy and Veneto, And now they're all gonna come and say, you see, because you are not vaccinated, you are not immunized, that's why now compulsory vaccination, that's another card in the game. But there is another problem. Let's take my city here. My city in Greece, Katerini, where I reside, has a population of 70,000 people. We have a very good general hospital of public health here. Now, in our hospital we have only 2 beds, that means 2 rooms for intensive care unit patient, for any reason. Let's say that now, after this presentation, I take some friends of mine, that is not allowed according to the new law that has been depicted upon our country, and personally I find it that is going against the Constitution of Greece, and Constitution is higher than any law that any government can impose, and the law of God is even higher, and the freedom is number 1. Freedom, truth, and justice. Health and safety is not the most important thing in life. And I'm not so sure, and I don't trust that the politicians, they really care for my health and my safety when they have put me with Troika and they have signed all these detestable things that has doomed my country for the third and fourth generation. But freedom is important. So the Constitution says that I have, in the Article 5, that I have to move freely in my country. Even in the war case, this cannot be stopped. But they have done it. Anyway, to cut the long story short, I'm here in Katerini, and I take 20 friends of mine, and we go with symptoms of influenza or coronavirus, let's say fever, dyspnea, and other symptoms. And 25 people would just roam into the hospital. Do you know what will happen? The hospital in less than 24 hours will crash, will collapse. Why? Because they don't have the facilities, they don't have the foundation to support 25 people and put us in quarantine or in intensive care unit. In Italy, when in a population of 100,000 you have only 200 beds in a hospital, it's very logical when the people, they get panic and for symptoms that in the last year or the year before they have from the influenza, the normal flu, and they were just staying home, they're just doing home remedies, or they were taking the antiviral medication that the doctor was prescribing. Now they all rush to the hospital, and what's the best place to contact an infection? A hospital. And when this person, as you will see in Italy, the majority of them, they have 2 or 3 other diseases, and they were taking what we say in medicine, polypharmacia. That means they were taking a lot of medication, especially antibiotics or medication for cardiovascular disease or for diabetes or for cancer, and then they succumb and they die in the intensive care unit in the hospital. They don't die from coronavirus. Coronavirus was just the tip of the iceberg. Italian. First of all, and I'm going to talk later on about this so-called test positive, how we make the test, you're going to see. But here, official data, till 17th of March, almost 50%, as you see, is in German, from a very well-known medical doctor, Dr. Wolfgang Wander. 49% of the people that they died, and they have been test positive, they have 3 andere Krankheiten. They have 3 other diseases. That means I was diabetic, I was, let's say, obese, and I have high blood pressure. And I was taking medication for all of these diseases. 26% of those that they died, they have 2 other diseases, and 25% they have at least 1 disease. Only 1% of those that they have died, they have so-called no disease at all. Okay? Now, from where to start? How we make a test to make if it's positive or negative for coronavirus? We take the PCR test, polymerase chain reaction. What's that? I will not explain it very scientifically because it will buzz your head. But the corona hype is not based on any extraordinary public health danger. And if we didn't have that test, we didn't have known that we have the infection. A laboratory at the Charité won the race at the WHO, the World Health Organization, and was the first to be allowed to market its house test worldwide. Professor Drosten was interviewed on 23rd of January of 2020 and described how the test was established. Now listen, from scientists, from the person, this professor that took the authority from the World Health Organization to market the home test. Listen how this test was established. He said on his interview, I can send you the interview to hear it on your own ears and eyes, that he cooperated with a partner from China who confirmed the specific sensitivity of the Charité test of the one coronavirus. That means, I'm here, I send my specialist that he's in China, Theodore, and the Theodore calls me or writes me an email and said, you know what, Konstantinos, I can confirm that this test has a specific sensitivity. Now listen to the words. The test doesn't say that can prove 100% it is right or wrong. Specificity. Other tests from different places follow soon and found their market. Now listen, even with a slight flu-like infection, the risk of coronavirus detection will be 7 to 15%, not more, to detect right. And we have a very good article in scientific perspective from the so-called prospective monitor in Scotland from 2005 to 2013. Here you see the abstract, virus-to-virus interaction impact the population dynamics of influenza and the common cold. You can get in internet and you can read the article and see that in reality, what is happening here, you see negative, false positive. You see this. This is the cover front page of Nature magazine. It's one of the most prominent scientific journals, and whosoever is here, that means a top-class scientist. This guy here, it's not me after 20 years, is Professor Dr. Mouroutis. Who is this? Is a biochemist and from Berkeley, and he's the inventor of this test, polymerase chain reaction, PCR. And as you see the title, Rewind to the PCR. Here is an abstract of the book of Dr. Duisberg, ex-member of the National Academy of Science, when, read with me, Harvey and other former graduates of Berkeley achieved international fame for inventing the polymerase chain reaction a few years ago. He was given the Nobel Prize in 1993 in his faculty for invention of the PCR. This ironically is a sensitive detection technique used by AIDS officials to claim they can find or detect HIV in almost every antibody-positive AIDS patient. Dr. Mouroutis, refused to buy this argument. Now watch out. Now is speaking the inventor of the test for HIV infection and for coronavirus and for all this baloney. I can't find a single virologist who will give me references which show that HIV is the probable cause of AIDS. If you ask a virologist for that information, you don't get an answer. You get fury. They get angry. Ask Mouroutis, how could a dormant virus cause fatal AIDS? Because HIV virus is a dormant virus. Biochemistry demands that every biochemical reaction is a consequence of an equivalent biochemical action. How could a virus that can be seen only after a billion-fold amplification be responsible for the fatal biochemical reactions that kill AIDS patients? If only Dr. Mouroutis was alive today. Why? He died last year, August 2019. If he was alive today, believe me, the whole pandemic fiasco will have just settled down. What they use is PCR RT. RT means real-time PCR. Does it work? He won, like I told you, the Nobel Prize in 1993. And what he says about his test is quantitative PCR is an oxymoronic shape. Quantitative means the quantity, not the quality, is an oxymoron. It cannot be really documented. What the PCR does, because you hear has been tested positive through this test, is choose a genetic sequence and then enchase it through. It can be like, to make it simple, to looking for a needle in a haystack. What the PCR is doing, when you have a needle in the haystack, it can strengthen the needle to the size of a straw. Like an electronic amplification antenna, the PCR test significantly amplifies the signal, but also significantly enchases the noise. Since the aid is exponential, the slightest error in measurement, the slightest contamination can lead to large-scale errors. Make it more simple for you, if you're not a scientist. Using a viral load diagnosis to measure viral activity will be like looking for a few pieces of nails, just a few pieces of nails, strengthening these pieces in a small mountain of nail pieces, mixed with other garbage, and then, after I have, let's say, two pieces of my nails, in a mountain of other pieces of nails from other people, and other garbage is there, then the expert will come and interpret that this pile of nails and garbage represents an army of soldiers fully armed and ready for battle. In reality, that's the truth of the case. All right? Here from PubMed, this is the science, not me. Potential false positive rate among the asymptomatic infected individuals in close contact with COVID-19 patients. What the abstract says here and what the paper says, you can go and read it, is that false positive rate of positive results, it was 80.33%. That means that from 1,000 people that have been proven positive to COVID-19, can reach almost to 80% is false positive, because they may have a flu type A or type B infection, but everything is giving and dumped to COVID-19 now. This is science. It's not me. Please, please never say Mr. Mouroutis said this and claim that. No, it's their claim. If you want to sue them and put them to the court of law, take them, not me. On the other hand, when my friends and I, the 20 people who just get in the hospital, and they have only 2 beds in the intensive care unit, and we're 25 people and they're stacked up, and every day is coming more and piling up because they get terrorized from the mass stupidity media, then the first line of medication that they give with a flu-like symptom, antiviral drugs, are medication that they have cortisone-based. Now, what cortisone is doing, simply put, is reducing short-term the inflammation, but long-term is an immune suppressive. What this implies, when your immune system is suppressed, then virus can work like a Trojan horse. And virus, if I detect virus here in your blood, doesn't mean anything. It has to get inside the cell like a Trojan horse. Otherwise, virus is for nothing. I will get more in detail a little bit later on. Now, this medication here, like Tamiflu and all others, they are cortisone-based. So, immune system is suppressed. Now, imagine that I have my grandfather or my father, he's 75 years old, has diabetes, is taking medication for his heart failure or hypertension, he's obese, or he has some other medical problem, at least 3 subsequent diseases, and he comes to me, let's say I'm a medical doctor in the hospital, and in addition to all this medication, I just push him and give him cortisone-based medication or interferon-based. What will happen? This is from the Center for Disease Control, from the official webpage, it's not my word. What this will happen, then, as they say, what can happen, the increased person's risk of getting serious complications from flu is asthma, neurologic and neurodevelopmental conditions, blood disorders like sickle cell anemia, chronic lung diseases, wow, like chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, and cystic fibrosis, endocrine disorders, like diabetes, heart disease, congenital heart disease, congenital heart failure, coronary artery disease, kidney disorders, liver disorders, metabolic disorders, and people that are obese with a body mass index more than 40, people younger than 19 years of age, but when they take a long-term aspirin or salicylate-containing medication, people with weakened immune system, like HIV, leukemia, and etc., or cancer patients. In reality, the way they treat first line, the people that they come with flu-like symptoms is cortisol-based, and they're doing worse. But this is the mentality of the medical system, how to treat the symptom and not heal the disease. They want to remove the symptom and to take them out of the hospital. That's why they're afraid, the governments and the politicians. By the way, we say in Greece, I don't know in your countries, but I hope that we have a universal, I'm against ecumenism, but I think that is ecumenical what we'll say now. In Greece we say, if you go to a whorehouse, otherwise a bordel, and you can find virginity in a bordel, you can find dignity and truth in the politicians. You cannot find in politics or in political agenda dignity and truth. Like you cannot find virginity in a brothel house. It's the same thing. That's why Socrates and Aristotle, they were consulting their disciples and say, don't mingle with politics, they're going to corrupt you. If Socrates was alive after 2,500 years ago, he would have committed suicide. Anyway, he did it by drinking the poison. And they gave him a poison. They gave him a medical stuff. Now, this is a graph of the COVID-19. Why they say coronavirus? We thank Greece for that, because they have coronas. Coronas is these spikes, as you see. And these spikes are there because a coronavirus like this use these spikes. They have E protein, S protein, M protein, just to get and to make a docking like a key and with a lock, and to get and to persuade the cell to open the cell to get and to rewrite, either with transposon, either with reverse transcriptase and this stuff, to write their genetic materials, either RNA or DNA, single strand, double strand, positive or negative ionized, doesn't make any difference, it's not important for you anyway. And they have detected from Louisiana State University, 23rd of March 2020, it's not my words, from the scientist, I'm nothing, that ACE inhibitors, this is acetylcholine converting enzyme, and angiotensin receptor blockers may increase the risk of severe COVID-19. Simple stuff saying. This virus, to get inside the lung cells, needs to adapt to a specific, this virus has a spike and needs to adapt to another spike in my cell surface membrane. There is a kind, and using this angiotensin converting enzyme, and this angiotensin converting enzyme is used in a specific branch of medication for heart problems. That means when a person is taking this kind of medication, in reality is opening wide the whole spectrum for the virus to get inside and to infect the person. And if this person is diabetic, is obese, it doesn't make an exercise, eats a lot of cholesterol, doesn't drink water but alcohol, is smoking, has a lot of stress, and etc., 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 it's not a virus. It's not a virus. Here on the left, you see disease death per day worldwide. First is tuberculosis. Daily, more than 3,000 people are dying from tuberculosis. Hepatitis B, 2,500. Pneumonia, HIV, malaria. Daily they are dying 2,000 people from malaria. And I'm asking why you put this new so-called medication, chloroquine, chlorosine. In Greece we have taken 5 tons of that and already they distribute to the people. When this medication supposedly is for malaria. If this medication is good, why are they still dying from malaria? And you know already that this medication has side effects, and for heart complications, why you give this medication without any statistical, empirical, and safe, sound, scientifically proven data? Why you rush? For the sake of health? No. Seasonal flu, 1,027 people per day, and COVID-19 this is the death rate per day. here from the Center of Disease Control, you see that in United States, they get infected from the seasonal flu, this kind of number, almost 45 million. You have almost 810,000 hospitalization, and you have from 12 till 61,000 people die each year in United States. Why? You try to proclaim a pandemic. And even Donald Trump, I don't know how he will go, the good guy, the president, but some days ago, I think a couple of days ago, he stated that he's not going to go for a total lockdown because we're going to have 50 to 60,000 deaths from coronavirus. Okay, they're human lives. We have more from influenza. And most important, he said, I don't know if he meant it or it just was thesis, antithesis, synthesis, Hegelian principle. He claimed, he said, if I lock down 160 million employees, the deaths that we will have, and this is coming to you in Europe, first of all from economic recession, and second, because many people, a lot of middle class, the middle class is going to be abolished. Whosoever of you are Christians, whosoever of you have seen amazing discoveries, and this good guy, Dr. Fide, he was talking about this, and the Bible is talking about this, that he has to be vanished. You have to have very few rich people, and all the others, they have to be down to the ground. We're going to have a recession. Many companies, many jobs will be lost. And then the deaths after Lehman Brothers, that they have collapsed. They had in the United States an increase of the very young mortality rate because of suicide and other psychiatric disorders. That means that people are losing the job, they have financial problems, they have debts, they have all this stuff, and they keep on dying because of lack of hope and purpose in life. Italy, 2017, worldwide. Number of deaths by cause worldwide, 2017, before 3 years. You had 709 million deaths from cardiovascular diseases. You have almost 10 million people that die from cancer, respiratory diseases, almost 4 million, and low respiratory infection, 2.5 million, dementia, 2.5, digestive diseases, 2.38, neonatal disorders, diarrhea, diabetes. You have here hundreds of thousands and million people dying, and you're claiming that you have a pandemic? Oh, this I received it 3 days ago. What's this? Is in German for those that they speak German. And this is a Bundestag Drucksache, is the official paper, Wahlperiode, see the date. It's from the German parliament, a full report of 88 pages. Whosoever speaks German, I can send it, just send me an email and I can mail it to you. And what in reality from the official paper from the German government in 2012-2013 is Bericht zum Risikoanalyse im Verfolgungsschutz 2012. In reality, what the German government and parliament is writing here is a scenario to analyze the risk for the population if, read with me, Pandemie durch Virus mal SARS-Infektion. In other words, they write, what will happen if a pandemic of a virus infection will take place in Germany? And not only this, just from the page 55 and on, it's very important. They explain what is a pandemic, and then they say, Pandemien mit Variationen von bekannten Erreger. That a pandemic will come from variation of well-known initiator, like influenza, or neuartige Krankheitserreger, or new initiator, like SARS. And now, watch this, from 2012 they seem to know Accidente oder intentionale Freisetzung zurückgehen. Either by accident or intentionally it will be set free, this pandemic. This is from the German government, it's not my word. Und hier sehe intentionale Freisetzung im Bereich der Lebensmittelerpressung. That an intentional setting free of this virus pandemic in the set of to press the food, to make the people get, now we go to some deeper things, and we can analyze here, and I really want to get deeper, but perhaps in another presentation. To press the people, the populations, in governments, in nations, for the food. Who controls the food? Control everything. That's why they have been set up a kind of international laws regulating the food. And this scenario is describing when this kind of infection will go out, modification of SARS, and then they have an example. Read with that. This is in 2012. Ist I have to read it in German. Ein aktuelles Beispiel für eine neue auftretende Erreger ist eine Coronavirus. Novel coronavirus. They seem to have the prophetic faith. Actual example is that will come to the scene an initiator, a coronavirus, a new coronavirus, a CoV like the SARS. And the difference between the SARS coronavirus and this virus, it has to do how the contamination, the infection from man to man will come. And I can go on, but I just want to finish with that. The lethality, the fatality, it's 10%. That means that the German government in 2012 is just make a risk analysis that if we get infected from a new novel coronavirus, 10% of those that they will get sick, they will die. They have implied during 14 days, that is the incubation phase. That means that they have calculated that about 7.5 million people only in Germany will have died from this novel coronavirus, and not worldwide. And today we have only 50,000 dead people from the whole world. They just don't get the numbers, they don't come to the numbers because God is not allowing them to get fully to their evil purpose. Where this will start? It will be global. Will start in Asia, in the North America, I mean United States and Europe. When this will take place, will start in the beginning of February in Asia, in China. They already knew that it will start around in February, the pandemic, in Asia and especially in China. Why not in Thailand? Where do you know? I don't know. It's not conspiracy theory. It's official German government paper from the Parliament of Germany. It's not mine. And when this, how long will take place? Ist so lange mit neuen Erkrankungen zu rechnen, bis ein Impfstoff verfügbar ist. We have to count it with this new disease till we find a vaccine. Yes, till we find a vaccine. And then they go to this and that and that. We have to put in quarantine. They give the guidelines how they will, the scientists will inform the governments and what measures the governments will take, how they will inform the mass media. You probably know already, it's in the internet, you know what is Event 2001. It took place October 2019 in United States, in New York. That was the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation with the World Trade Organization and the Johns Hopkins University, a simulation of a pandemic. And that was exactly a rehearsal of what you see here from the German government and the papers. But my friends, coming to wrap it up, at least to this point, till yesterday, 2:30 in the morning, from the worldmeter.info, we had, see this number, 102,954,124,309 spent on illegal drugs. On illegal drugs. 1,871,000,000 spent for public military expenditure. Now, If you create war to make money, you cannot create a disease to make more money. It's not so simple as that. 842 million undernourished people in the world. 216,000 deaths till yesterday night caused by water-related. 3,340,000 communicable disease deaths. 126 seasonal flu deaths till yesterday night. And every year is about up to 650,000 people die in the world from a seasonal flu infection. That means from 795 up to 1,781 deaths per day due to seasonal flu. Why you create the panic? 1,000,009, the numbers are really terrifying. 1,950,560 deaths from children under 5 years old, 10,938,000 abortions, 41,685,000 infected with HIV, and almost 500,000 died from the same, 252,000 deaths by malaria, 1,286,000 deaths by smoking, more than 500,000 by alcohol, and 275,972 suicides. And they estimate, the experts, after the pandemic will subside, the economical and social disorder will quadruple this number. But who cares? Who gives a damn about it? We have psychiatrists, we have neurologists to take care of that. Now, this is in Greek, this is the epitome of immunology. And in reality, what says here, and because I want to conclude with great news, good news, and I don't know, it will be really an honor if you come and enjoy, by joining a program, Start New Life Health Program, what we do here in Greece, up to the free mountains here in Mountain Olympus. For more information, you can email or talk to Pavel. He knows. We already have in June a program like this. But we can make another one if we have enough participators in August. Just, it will be an honor. What we have here you see the brain, and we have the science of psychoneuroimmunology. Now, how the brain perceives stress factor, the so-called eustress or distress. If it's a distress, produce specific cytokines and chemokines, and there are substances that produce the brain and the immune system. And what we read here is inflammation. When we have inflammation and a part of your body is inflamed, then the medicine is coming and is giving cortisone-based medication that suppress the immune system. Inflammation is going away, but the problem stays. What is written here in Greek, I just put it in last week for the Greek audience here, just put it for you, is in what the doctors, the immunologists, when they make their specialty, they are trained to learn. Now, it's one thing what you learn, another thing what you say to the people. And has been described the immune system as the moving brain. We used to believe that the brain gives the command and the immune system just obeys, like a general to a soldier. No, we have a dialectic communication. We do know today that the immune system is dictating and can give information and dictations to brain, and brain can respond to that. That's why it's the science of psychoneuroimmunology, neuroendocrinology, and so forth, and etc., etc. Here, and this was concluded, it's amazing for me. Please come to a program, we have great news. What you see here, the immune system, you have the cellular and the humoral immunity. The baseline of the immunity is that what, in theory, is the cause and the purpose of vaccination. What is the vaccine? It's an almost dead microorganism that comes into your body. The immune system takes it, analyzes it, makes memory, so that and destroys that, so that when the real enemy will come, will react very fast. That's in theory for the vaccines, and I have nothing against him with his theory. Theory and practice are two different things. Now, what they say here is, here is the receptor of the immune system, and here is the antigen receptor. What is the antigen receptor? Is the receptor that, let's say, virus, let's say bacteria, let's say any invader that comes to your body has already. What you see here and what they describe, that's why I have made it in Greek and have underline is the following, what they say. Now listen, this is from the Epitome of Immunology textbook that the doctors are studying. I don't care if they have studied well, but I have studied very thoroughly. What they say here is the following. That the immune system is here, my immune system, and let's say Coxsackie virus is coming into me. For my immune system to recognize that, if I don't have make any vaccination, the natural immunity, as we say, has this receptor of the antigen of the Coxsackie virus has to dock here, and has like a lock in a door to get and fit inside, so the door will be open. What the immunologist is saying, and it's amazing to me, is the following: that your immune system has already receptors for any kind of virus, any kind of probable invader for your body. This is what they write here, and they write that the inside world of the immune system is already represented. This is the word that I have subtitled here. That the inside world of the immune system is already represented with the outside world. They have receptors in every part of your immune system to acknowledge, to realize, and to lock in the invader, no matter what. This comes, and I have said last week, how long is HIV virus known to us? From 1980, when two different scientists in the United States and in France, they detected the human immune deficiency virus. Now, recently they have detected that all people in the world, from 7 billion, they have a gene, CEM15, that produces a protein, and this protein is destroying the HIV virus. And I'm asking you and I, HIV virus, I'm not going to conspiracy theories if it has started in the laboratory or from a monkey, anyway. But this virus or this infection starts from 1980. It was not from the beginning of the human time and history. Why? Because if it was there, the Hippocrates, all the ancient doctors have detected, like, let's say, sexually transmitted diseases, that syphilis and so forth, that we already know. What is amazing to me is this. Science comes and says that we already possess in our immune system a gene that produces a protein that can really annihilate the HIV virus. That means, in my stupid mind, implies that something or someone knew before even the creation or the invasion of the HIV virus, that someone will invent this virus, or this virus, through genetic mutation, through horizontal transfer of gene transportation, that this virus will create havoc to the immune system. And already someone, and I say the creator, has created a special program so can destroy the virus when the virus will come in my body. This is amazing. This is exactly what they say here for any kind of infection. That means even if coronavirus will come, if my immune system has already the receptor to lock in the new COVID-19, what is my part to do is just to create a good homeostasis, a good tranquility, so the immune system can fight back. And this has to do with what kind of food I eat, if I have enough water, if I expose myself to sunlight, if I have good clean air, if this, if that, but most of all, if my brain is producing endorphins, because the greatest thing that can promote and kick off the immune system to fight is production of endorphins. And you produce, my friends, endorphins when you are happy, when you are holy, and we are joyful. That's why the pursuit of joy and happiness and meaning in life is the #1 cause. If I was a devil, I will make it morally acceptable to kill someone and be called scientifically euthanasia. The right to die in Switzerland already is legal to do that. 87% for those people that they ask for euthanasia, to die, to kill themselves, and this is against the Hippocratic Oath, is because they have a lack of mobility. They cannot move. They feel that they are what? Handicapped. Handicapped? What means to be a handicapped? Cannot move? Cannot talk? No. A handicapped person starts from the brain. Because you think that you are handicapped, that's why you are handicapped. If I was the devil, I will direct my attacks on the family, the very foundation, the cornerstone of every society. You destroy the cell, you destroy the tissue. You destroy the tissue, you destroy the organ, then the whole organism is collapsed. If I was the devil, I will make divorce easy, even a fashion, so that when the family dissolves, the society collapses. And you see rich and famous, and the people are just taking very good glimpse at that. If I were the devil, I will convince society that homosexuality is something normal. You are born gay. And I will make it that more to be in and to be tasteful. And whosoever speaks against that, then you are discriminate, you are racist, and there are laws already bringing penalty. If I were the devil, I will legalize the death of children as a pregnancy termination. Every year, to the official statistics, the #1 cause is abortion. More than 45 million babies are aborted every year officially. This is a genocide. Let's see something talking about that. I know that it seems very cruel, but that's a silent holocaust. And someone has to speak, stand up and speak about those souls that they cannot cry. Okay? So when those people and politicians, and I know the arguments right now, what they're going to say in my face, it's the right of the woman, of the mother. What's the right of this baby? If it's your right as a woman, what's the right for this baby? So when the politicians or the scientists, by the way, the Hippocratic Oath negates and abolishes not even the thought for a doctor to perform an abortion. So when a gynecologist, an obstetrician, a medical doctor is performing abortion, is going against the Hippocratic Oath. And I don't care how good doctor is. It's nothing. Has no morality, no ethos, no ethics at all. And this is what the society is lacking for people, that they have morality to stand tall and to proclaim the truth, no matter what the cause. So when the politicians or the other officials and experts, they cry so much, don't cry for me, Argentina, that they care for my health, that's why they lock me down for my safety. What you're doing about this? Nothing. It's freedom? No. That's anarchy. If I were the devil, I'd win the media and intify, that means pollute the mind and the heart with anything that offered fun. New scientists, mind your head what the electronic age is doing to our brains. And let us see a small part what the mass media is doing.
Global corporations not only fund and develop large technological and military projects here and abroad, they also own the consumer industry and production. as well as all of the important media. By owning the vast majority of what we hear and see on a daily basis, we have been manipulated on a mass scale as to regards to what we believe and desire, both socially and politically. Edward Bernays, the nephew of world-famous psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud, would study group dynamics and become the father of public relations. He authored the book Propaganda in 1928. In it, he described how to intelligently and consciously manipulate the habits and opinions of the masses within a democratic society. He went on to state that those who harness this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government and are the true ruling power. It is they who pull the wires which control the public mind, who harness old social forces and contrive new ways to bind and guide the world.
The average American is distracted, mindless, worried about minuscule things, celebrities, as if it was their own family members. And this is by design, because the powers that be, who own the media, know how our brains work. They know scientifically how the human mind functions. They know about sociology, and they are using the media, and have used the media for decades now, to entertain people with issues that don't really matter. When you have the big news networks covering celebrity issues as if it's the most important thing, it becomes the most important thing. And this is not by accident. This is to keep us out of the way. Because if you're worried about the latest celebrity death, or the latest celebrity couple, or the celebrity breakup, or your sports team having a shot at the Super Bowl or the World Series, there's so much information about those issues that can be discussed that will mesmerize people, and they won't know or care about the real issues that are out there.
Well, I think this is just one more piece of evidence of the degree to which the media, supposedly the watchdogs, has become the gatekeeper of the system.
Mainstream media are, first of all, nearly all of them corporations, nearly all of them now publicly held, part of the whole Wall Street financial system that they're supposed to report about objectively, but they can't. They, right now, in October of 2009, they are celebrating the recovery of the biggest banks in New York and saying that the recession is over. Of course, there are a few problems, like foreclosures are going on, unemployment is rising. All of this is affecting the American people. It's not affecting the financial elite, who also control the media.
Bernays successfully identified the invisible empire which controlled the minds of men. So as the populace is mesmerized and hypnotized by powerful behind-the-scenes forces, as they are distracted by the latest celebrity scandal, the newest cell phone, and their favorite sports team, this network disguises itself, remaining in the shadows.
So if the mass media are controlled, and it's no conspiracy, they claim it, in Greece, for this pandemic of coronavirus, our government has given 14 million euros, not to the national TV channel, but to the private TV channels, just to inform the public. And these 14 million euros are my money and other Greek people's money from the tax income of the government. It's not their money, okay? And it's not an information. If I were the devil, you see how canny is the evil one? I'd create mind-distorted drugs, target the youth, and have the celebrities launch them. Aleister Crowley, who was this guy? This guy was the initiator of the Golden Dawn in England, the first black magic society and club. Do what the will is the whole of the law under love. And Aleister Crowley has said, put together a system of magic that it ever combined with the power of music and drugs will be able to revolutionize the world. I have a whole series of lectures. I hope that you will be glad. My friend Pavel, now I'm tempting him, that I have a series of lectures called Sound Revelations, and there is the 6 or 7 presentations about the power of music, the mind of the machine, the music industry, words to the wise, and what we can do. And music is not just music. Ancient Greece, the golden eon of the 5th century BC, collapsed here in Athens because the Greeks, they thought that the music is good or bad, or anything is good or bad according to what emotion has brought to you. Oh, Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, the most important single figure in the 19th century in occult revival, founder of Theosophical Society, and author of many books, including the book The Secret Doctrine, 1888. For those that they are from the faithful remnant, in 1888 something wonderful happened in Minneapolis, in a conference there with two young people, one medical doctor and one pastor and one preacher, A.T. Johnson Wagner. They brought a great message. And another lady, at that time in the United States, has said, that's the true three angels message. They declined this faithful remnant, that message, and today they have become Laodicean. In this book, she attempted to reconcile and unite Eastern and Western occultism. Elvis Presley was a follower of Blavatsky, visited a psychic in Denver, thought he could form clouds with the power of his mind, and believed he was a reincarnation of Christ at the end of his life. Spin Doctors, very well-known rock band. Don't be asking me no damn questions, man. I wouldn't know anything except that we're exploiting the kids. So when you send your children to go to these concerts, and I'm saying from my own experience because I used to be a wolf before I became a lamb. I think I'm a lamb of God. I used to go to many concerts and heavy metal and rock and roll and death metal, and I know. So we're exploiting the kids. And Derek Taylor, press secretary of the Beatles, in the Evening Post stated, they are completely antichrist, so much so they shock me. This is not easy to do. And Beatles in Playboy magazine in 1965, they have stated, we're not just antichrist and anti-Christian, Jesus is dead. Now only for this statement, and comes another statement, even worse, quoting, Jesus is a garlic-eating, stinking, little yellow, greasy, fascist, bastard Catholic Spaniard. Only for these statements, I will have nothing to do with Beatles. No matter if they sing, she loves you, yeah, yeah, and I want to hold your hand. I don't care. Just on the garbage, because it's garbage. Ultra Kill, the truth about the devil. But what about the musical connection with all of this? Now listen, from the horse mouth. Well, even before heavy metal, the devil took an interest in rock and roll. The very term rock and roll started life as a black American expression for sex and sinful procreation. Procreation is good, but sinful procreation has been the devil's province for a long, long time. Believe me, if we have the time to make this seminar and a series of lectures, now Pavel will say, yes, let's do it. We'll talk about that. We'll talk, my friend. We have a lot to say about this and to inform and to enlighten, especially the youth, about this. David Bowie, one of the greatest rock stars. Now listen, it's not my words, they say it. I believe rock and roll is dangerous. It could very well bring about a very evil feeling in the West. It's got to go the other way now, and that's where I see it's heading, bringing about the dark era. I feel that we are only heralding something even darker than ourselves. Rock and roll lets in lower elements and shadows. Wow. Rock has always been the devil's music. You can't convince me that it isn't. David Bowie said that. Amazing. Wow, this lady. Oh, this beautiful lady. What he said? Elton John. That's a lady. Listen what Elton John, Sir Elton, now Lady Elton John. There is nothing wrong with going to bed with someone of your own sex. I think people should be more free with sex. They should draw the line at goats. That means you can go with the same sex intercourse. Don't perform bestiality. If I were the devil, I'll convince people that in leadership, morality doesn't play any role at all. You remember Monica and Bill under the table. Or, oh, I'm not a crook, Watergate, Nixon. By today's standards, that time President Nixon, what he did with Watergate, it was not a fraud. If I were the devil, I would lead not only citizens but entire nations and governments to believe that gambling is legal and it's okay. I see and I hear Christians gambling and say, it's okay, if I win the money, I will give it for a good charity. No, you cannot use devil's money to do God's work. If I were the devil, I would drive the economies into totalitarian centralization, ultramontanism, and make the rich richer and the poor even more poor. Is it a boom over and it's collapsing? And corruption. 2019 Corruption Perceptions Index, and not top countries that are less corrupted and countries that are top corrupted, bottom line down there. Where do the Bilderberger, have you heard about Bilderberger Group? Where they come from, the greatest percentage, United States, United Kingdom, France, Austria, Germany, Netherlands, Turkey, Canada, Italy, the West Secret Power Group. And it's not conspiracy. They talk open now. They're not afraid to show their faces and to express their motives and what's the purpose. If I were the devil, I would win the most powerful state in the world, United States of America. I'm not going to go to this about anno id coeptus norvus olum seclorum, about what this means, and ut unimum plurum. I don't know and I don't care. Let's see something and enjoy.
Taft, George Bush, and George W. Bush, who's been reluctant to talk about Skull and Bones.
Does it still exist? The thing is so secret, I'm not even sure it still exists.
Former Skull and Bones members and current members have been presidents, heads of the CIA, senators, heads of business. I mean, huge, huge corporations. These people have the network that brings them to such a position of power that most people could only dream of.
Bush would run against his fellow bonesman and distant cousin John Kerry in 2004.
You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us? Not much, because it's a secret. Is there a secret handshake? Is there a secret code? I wish there were something secret I could manifest. 322, a secret number? There are all kinds of secrets, Tim.
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go wild.
I'm sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the web.
Number 322? This is an elaborate, occult, ritualistic entry into this group that they are now a member of for life.
This culture of death and the occult continues long after college. Later on in life, these pagan rituals carry on in the redwoods of Sonoma, California.
And what is the Bohemian Grove? Well, it's a kind of summer camp for the powerful, an all-male gathering in great secrecy.
This group was formed in the late 1800s by artists, industrialists, and politicians. Bohemian attendees worship the owl as their deity. The Aztecs, Mayans, and other natives of Mesoamerica considered the owl a symbol of destruction and death. This is why the opening ritual for the club is the cremation of care. During the ritual, the effigy of a baby is rowed across the water by the Grim Reaper and given to a high priest, who then tosses it on a fiery sacrificial altar of a 40-foot owl god. It is an earth-based ritual in which care is burned away. The conscience is symbolically cast aside so that they may ignore the pain they have inflicted on others for the advancement of their own agendas.
With this ceremony called the cremation of care that begins the two-week encampment where the body of dull care, symbolizing woes and concerns, is burned on an altar in front of a big owl statue. When that ceremony ends, they all start to cheer and yell.
You have to ask yourself why it is that somebody would want to do that, let alone these elite people. And if you look at the elite throughout history, many of the people that achieve pinnacles of power are into the occult. They seek a supernatural way to gain power.
Why are Christian conservatives such as the Bushes and Newt Gingrich attending the Grove?
And I recognize I'm not going to be invited to Renaissance Weekend or that Bohemian deal where Newt, Rush, and Dick all sit in the teepee naked beating on tom-toms.
Why does the media barely mention the Grove? Because many of them are in attendance. Late political cartoonist Phil Frank of the San Francisco Chronicle draws a reporter thinking about his loyalties to Bohemian Grove as he takes notes for a story.
Stories about what happens in these redwoods are hard to come by. A campground statue reminds Bohemians to keep their mouths shut about the Grove.
Many world events have been shaped at the Grove, including the creation of the atomic bomb.
Discussions at the Grove in the 1930s helped lead to the development of nuclear power and the atomic bomb.
Every Republican president since Calvin Coolidge has been a member, as well as many Democrats, including Jimmy Carter.
If you look at the membership lists of the Bohemian Grove and the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderberg Group, a lot of the key level people are overlapping and are involved in numerous groups.
In addition to pagan rituals that take place there, this all-male club also deals with darker themes through the plays Montezuma, which feature Aztec human sacrifice, and Faust, which feature Mephisto. Some of these plays are disturbingly flamboyant. Many of the elitists have a penchant for cross-dressing and singing show tunes. Perhaps that is why much of the all-male staff also happen to be homosexuals.
Well, each year, many of them seem to have a stunt or try to come up with a stunt. Last year, in 1980, the popular button was Free the Fortune 500.
Bohemian Grove that I attend one time at a time. It is the most faggot goddamn thing you will ever imagine.
In 2004, the New York Post reported that gay porn star Chad Savage would be servicing moguls at the Bohemian Grove. In recent years, several politicians have been outed in scandals, including Senator Larry Craig, who tried to solicit sex from an undercover officer in 2007. Even more shocking, it was revealed in 2004 that right-wing blogger James Guckert, who had unprecedented access to the White House during the Iraq War, was actually Jeff Gannon, a madam and male prostitute for MilitaryStuds.com. During his 2 years writing for GOP USA and Talon News, Gannon officially made over 200 appearances at the White House. Oddly enough, over 24 of these visits would take place when there were no scheduled briefings. He failed to check in or out with the Secret Service on many other occasions, coming and going as he pleased. These type of activities are not new to the White House. In 1989, headlines involving callboys in the White House rocked the cover of the Washington Times.
The Washington Times reported today that unidentified White House aides in the Carter, Reagan, and Bush administrations now are being investigated for using the services of a callboy ring. The paper reports that 2 of the male prostitutes were given a late-night tour of the White House last year.
Hundreds of credit card receipts obtained by the Washington Times confirm that its clients were key officials of the Reagan and Bush administrations, military officers, congressional aides, and U.S. and foreign businessmen with close social ties to Washington's political elite. This ring extended beyond the White House and into Congressman Barney Frank's bedroom.
Barney Frank, one of 2 openly homosexual members of Congress, acknowledged having used a male prostitute, whom he then hired as a personal employee. The man had keys to Frank's basement apartment on Capitol Hill. Frank paid him approximately $20,000 out of his own pocket to be his housekeeper and driver. But as first reported in today's Washington Times, the man was on probation for sex crimes and a drug conviction, and he ran a prostitution business out of Frank's home.
Although Frank tried to claim ignorance, Stephen Goby, the prostitute in question, claimed that Frank was completely aware of what was going on, and was even receiving free and discounted sexual services. The fix seemed to be in. Frank was threatening members of Congress to remain silent prior to being exposed in this sex ring.
Massachusetts Democrat Barney Frank, a homosexual, threatened to expose fellow congressmen he knew to be gay unless they stopped spreading rumors.
Questions stopped, and Frank walked away with a slap on the wrist. Some members of the Ethics Committee were disgusted.
Do we tolerate, do we condone a member of this body who knowingly permits a house of prostitution to be operated out of his residence?
You have just heard one of the most edited, selective garbage that has ever been put forth, in my opinion, in this House.
Again, we see people of the highest levels of power involved in the most repulsive and decadent of crimes.
They couldn't care less about the code of conduct that's taught in all major religions about treating others the way that you want to be treated. And then they masquerade, they put this false front on that they're like everybody else, because your average person wants to do right, believes in some sort of a karma, believes in some sort of a divine justice in the universe. And so these people need to put on this front that they're like the average Joe in middle America, that they go to church every once in a while, and that they believe in an afterlife and a divine justice. And so they have to put on this front that they're like everybody else in order to get elected and to be accepted and to not have people look at them suspiciously, because if somebody goes around and openly admits that they were an atheist or that they were some obscure religion, people aren't going to throw their support behind them as much, and they're not going to trust them as easily.
The reality of this behavior is never revealed to the public, as the media keeps any revelations quiet. Unfortunately, these type of activities continue to this day. Florida Congressman Mark Foley chaired the House caucus on missing and exploited children and went on television praising Chris Hansen's To Catch a Predator series.
The Dateline piece has probably done more than any law we can create.
Foley was later caught attempting to have sexual relations with numerous underage pages.
Congressman Mark Foley, the man who championed the Child Protection Act of 2006, resigned after inappropriate emails and instant messages surfaced that he sent to former congressional pages.
Once more, no charges were even filed.
Foley himself has checked into rehab. No one has been charged with any crime.
The predator class acts like Roman emperors, indulging in excess that includes sex with young boys while portraying themselves as men of the Lord. The insanity is that we have allowed an interwoven elite criminal class to rule over us while posing as the saviors of the planet. We have learned they will stop at nothing to achieve their goals and are not held accountable for their crimes. They prey on the system rather than protect it. This is not a new world order of peace and prosperity. It is not a world government to save the earth.
My friends, I know it sounds and seems very repulsive, but that's the tip of the iceberg. And I'm asking you, if this can come to national-wide, like TV channels like CNN and CBS and NBC, or San Francisco Chronicle or Washington Post, what is happening, going on inside the White House, the elite, all these people. And do you heard what they say? That they seem to have a front, a face up, that they are like an average citizen, that their family, they believe in God, they go to church, they believe in afterlife, and this, that, so they will gain the trust. Sorry. Because if they saw their face, let's say if I come out and say to you, you know what, I belong to the Church of Satan of Anthony LaVey, please vote for me. In Greece, that is an Orthodox country, nobody will vote me. But if I go to the Orthodox Church, if I'm a member of the church, if I have a bishop or the archbishop as my friend, if I give tithe and offering to the church, if I have a family, even though that I have nothing with my wife and I have male whore, or I am a prostitute, or I'm a pedophilian, but I have my front, you will believe me. That's why don't even believe me what I'm saying to you now. Search. Like Jesus said, search the scriptures. And time and again I have been asked, is it all politicians, it's all the people that are corrupted? Perhaps some 1%, 5% that they may be good and true and genuine and have dignity. No. You see, before 2,000 years ago, in this desert, when the Lord was tempted by the devil himself, from the 3 temptations, one temptation was the following. He took Jesus and took him very high and showed him all the kingdoms of the world. And what devil taught to him? Worship me, bow down and worship me, and I will give you all the kingdoms. Before 2,000 years, the evil one, Satan, claims for himself that all the kingdoms, that means all the political authorities, financial powers, and religious supremacies, they belong to him. They're his children. And say, bow down and I will give anything to you. And I'm asking, it's Socratic way of interrogation. If before 2,000 years, devil makes this claim, this bold claim, could you imagine that 2,020 years later that we live in, 2020, Anno Domini, that there is at least one politician in the high rank or one financial powerful man or one supreme military person that is out of his grip? No way. No way. That's why Jesus said to Pontius Pilate, when he said to him, don't you know that you have the power to put you to death or to set you free. No power will be given to you if it was not given above. And said, are you a king? And what he replied, the master, he said, my kingdom is not of this world, otherwise my disciples will fight for that. Okay? And here you can see how the New Age movement goes, the Freemasonry, the Illuminati, Rosicrucians, Knight Templars, Gnosticism, Kabbalism, Ancient Mystery, and so forth. And so it's all interconnected and interwoven. Albert Pike, who is this guy, is the second person after Adam Weishaupt that Adam Weishaupt created Illuminati in Bavaria in Germany. And this guy is producer from the south. And in his book, Morals and Dogma of the Freemasonry, he claims there that the generals of the 30th, 31st, 32nd, and 33rd degree, we worship Lucifer. So in the Freemasonry lounge, after the 30th degree, they worship Lucifer. They're initiated. And what he wrote, we shall unleash the nihilist. Who's a nihilist? A nihilist is a person that used to have a purpose, a meaning, a good Christian. He has been disappointed from his Christianity and his leaders or the way things go, and he has lost anything. We shall unleash nihilists and atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations, people of different nationalities, the effects of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. Good grip. If I were the devil, I'd fill people's mind with myths about their evolution. I will alter their thinking by believing that they came from luck, a strike of luck, and not from the hand of God. More than 50% of young people that they enter universities or colleges and schools with a belief in God, when they come out, especially in science like medicine or biology or physics and mathematics, they come out as an atheist. I will take God out of school if I were the devil, and anyone who will be serious about him will humiliate this person at all. You see, there is probably no God. Now stop worrying and enjoy your life. If you're a Christian today, as a young person, even as an older person, and you claim for Christ, then you're ridiculed. If I were the devil, I would present to people that right and wrong is determined by an elite of the few, like we saw in the video before, and the rest have to adapt politically, socially, and ideologically. If you are not with us, you're against us. That's the thing. And you see the president and this cornuto, for sure, it's not the sign of luck, it's the sign of Lucifer. Some other perhaps time we can talk about the Newsweek. Big Brother is watching you. And we come to the so-called Noahide laws. I don't know if you heard about this. What's the Noahide laws? Supposedly, after the flood, God gave to Noah, or Noahide laws, 7 basic principles of life. Imagine that. God didn't give his 10 commandments, so he gave another 7. Like faithful to God, respect of integrity, respect of life, respect of God, be faithful to him, of others' property, respect of living creatures, especially if you believe in afterlife or reincarnation. And now the best, the 6th law. Law and order. Law and order. There are some series about law and order and some films about that. And where this all starts from, for sure, God never gave such a kind of laws. That's a Kabbalistic approach. And here we see that the Sanhedrin blesses Trump, calls on President to uphold the 7 Noahide laws. That in Congress they have been voted, these laws, from George W. Bush Sr. They never till today have been enacted, but they are there, these laws. And when the time comes, especially when we do know about the biblical prophecy about the mark of the beast and the seal of God, these Noahide laws, especially for law and order. I talked today, this morning, 11 o'clock, we have our presentation in Greek, and I said that now that we have lockdown in Greece, in Cyprus, and many other countries, and people are isolated, deprived of the freedom, against any kind of conscience and constitution, afterwards already voices are springing up from religious avenues, especially from Rome, that says that we stay home, and because we stay home, we go to a so-called forced rest. And because we rest and you rest for your safety and health, and then the pandemic of the Satan will go away, rest is very helpful for us. This, what we experience now, is a prova generale, a general rehearsal of what is about to come. Then a religious power will come and will claim and say, you see, the rest is doing good. That's why let's enforce and let's legitimate this rest. And where we will go, the politicians will say, to find moral principles about rest. Or like Bill Clinton, as a president of the United States, has said, oh, Holy Father, we turn back to you for moral guidance. So the Sanhedrin, the rabbi in the United States, blesses Trump and calls that President Trump will uphold the 7 Noahide laws. If I were the devil, I would present to society that the church is irrelevant and unrelated to all this, and that the Bible is only for the naive. Now you see them in the United States. They are Masons. What the cardinal of the United States has to do with a Mason? And for sure, when you go and you visit the Pope, it's not the Pope, it's a cardinal from the conclavium, you have to dress in black. And for sure, this God here from the Buddhists with this God here, the vicar of Christ upon earth, they are good friends. And the patriarch of the Orthodox Church with the Pope with an upside down cross here when he visited Jerusalem, Pope John Paul II, or Wojtyla, as was his Polish name. I'm asking you and I, where are the pastors? They say to you, lock down the church, and you obey the state. Have you ever read what Peter said? It's better to obey God than man. Okay, they may say, and I see for the faithful remnant and all the Christians, like the evangelicals here and the Protestants, they're through YouTube and they just transmit like this, and there are empty churches. Didn't Jesus say the last time he went out of the temple, Solomon's temple, behold, your house is left desolate, and your houses, the houses of your worship are left desolate because Christ is not in there, was never there, was a form of worship, having the formality of faith, but you deny the power of it, says Paul in Timothy. No. Why you don't open the church? Because the state says so. For your own good. No. For me, a scientist, today with this crisis, if a scientist or a pastor or a priest, against what the government said, if he is not standing, make his own research and stand for his folk and proclaim the truth, like Martin Luther King said, he is guilty of betrayal of faith and is damn guilty. He has committed the unpardonable sin. If I were the devil, I will build a system like the Roman Catholic that seems to shine but will truly cause misery, pain and persecution to the children of God. When you can't beat them, join them. You see the Führer with the cardinals, Sieg Heil. The Keys of This Blood, please read that book written by Malachi Martin. Who was this? Who was Malachi Martin? Malachi Martin was a former Jesuit. He was inside Vatican and he was the spokesman of Vatican for John Paul. How Pope John Paul II versus Russia and the West for control of the New World Order. In that book at that time, written in the 80s, he's describing even the role of our ex-prime minister that we used to have here from many countries. And when this person was writing with authority. It's not just a simple average person. And Time, Man of the Year, he spoke to United Nations. He even went the Pope now, that he's the first time so-called Jesuit Pope, that he went inside the Congress in the Parliament of the United States against the Constitution, the Bill of Rights of the United States. And he had the standing applause, the Pope. If people like John Wesley, Wycliffe, Tyndale, or the other reformers, they were alive, or even Luther. What's the title of the Pope? Is Vicarius Filii Dei, Vicar of the Son of God, and the number 666 is there, and it's not a conspiracy, because only this power in religions and political sin and biblical prophecy, eschatological prophecy, fulfills the criteria. Is the small horn in Daniel, in the book of Daniel, and it's written in Revelation. Please study the books. This is my admonition to you. October 28th, 1986, praying for peace. That was the first time that the religions like Buddhism, the Orthodox, the Catholics, the Evangelicals, and all the others, they were united there in Assisi, in Rome, in Italy, for peace. My Bible says when they come and call for peace and safety, sudden destruction will come upon them and they will not escape. And here is the Pope, our Pope, all dressed are black and he is in white. Why? Because in Revelation says the Babylon, that I'm not a widow, I will not mourn for the people. Everyone that has left Rome has to mourn. That's why they have to dress in black. And here, this happened, what you see here happened January 25, 2020, before 2 months ago. Where? In Bologna, in Italy. And what was that? An interfaith gathering from all religions and all Christian faiths, the greatest denominations, like Orthodox, Coptic, Evangelical, Pentecostal, Adventist, here. And they signed the Ecumenical Charter. Here you see them how they sign. And here you see the signature, I have magnified that. Anglicana, Cattolica, Adventista, and so forth. And what this Ecumenical Charter says, among many things, the Ecumenical Charter declares that the Church is one holy, Catholic, and apostolic, and therefore the inescapable ecumenical task consists in making visible the unity that the Church of Christ of Jesus is the one faith, and in witness and in common sense, what the Ecumenical Charter says, to avoid harmful competition and the danger of new divisions. The spiritual gift of the different Christian traditions. Catholic Church doesn't acknowledge that you are in another denomination, you are tradition, another tradition, and appeals to every church to welcome each other gifts. What's the language is very important. The Ecumenical Charter laments, now listen what the Charter is lamenting of and for, the painful sign of the division still existing between many Christian churches, which according to them is due to the lack of Eucharistic sharing. What's the Eucharistic sharing? Taking the hostia, the Catholic hostia. And I'm asking you, what this Adventist pastor or Anglican pastor or Orthodox priest has to do with Eucharistic sharing? And please don't have the danger of new divisions. The Ecumenical Charter encourages ecumenical celebrations, common songs, and prayers. It was the Vatican II that was introduced this charisma and the celebration and the new worship styles and music. If would ever Pavel, I'm talking to you now, I'm referring to you, would do the Sound Revelation series, then I'm going, by God's grace, show this. Now, encyclical letter Laudato Si of the Holy Father Francis on care for our common home. Coronavirus gives Pope reason for a day of rest to heal the planet. Yes, yes we can. Isn't that amazing? So this is the Prova Generale. Next time, it will be to enforce a law. Not a no-hide law, but a law about the worship of the day of the Venerable Son. And prophecy fulfilling, President Trump declares Sunday National Day of Prayer amid coronavirus crisis. It's amazing. But the principle that we have to live for, against every devil's devices is sola scriptura. Sola gratia, sola fide, tota scriptura, tota gratia, and tota fide. And only the Bible 95 says he has the courage to stand there and to nail in the Wittenberg church and say, here I stand. And when they called him and said, revoco to him, recant from your writings. No, I will not do that. He said, this hero of faith, if I'm not persuaded in my conscience and from the proof of the Holy Scriptures, I will not and I shall not recant, because to go against your conscience is the most evil thing. Here I stand. May God help me. Amen. And the whole world was set on fire. If I were the devil, I will direct the mind of the faithful to think that prayer is not necessary and that obedience and reverence is a personal matter of each individual. Your faith, my faith. If I were the devil, I will make my first necessity for the gospel not to be preached in the world. All of my power, kingdom, and demonic sources will be devoted to the cessation of the gospel. My survival depends on that. 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 11 and 12. Seeing that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought to ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness, looking for and hasting unto the coming of the day of God, where the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. If I were the devil, I will devote my life to preventing the church from going into the world and preaching the gospel to come to the end. I will see Christians who are totally dedicated to Jesus' last commandment as my worst nightmare. And devil has nightmares. Why? Because they are totally dedicated followers of Christ. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 4. But if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost, in whom the God of this world, the devil, had blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine unto them. For centuries has been given to us, the church has been trying to keep it dogmatic rather than send missionaries to evangelize the world. The church concern was and is how she will stabilize and elevate it and not to be the salvation of sinners. So if I were the devil, I would eliminate the missions. I will have made, now listen for faithful Raymond, I will turn them into fields, conference, union, division. Isn't that amazing? There are churches that they have first union and then they have a division. And the division is higher than the union. What a juxtaposed system. And I will make them a status quo. If I were the devil, I will make a very heavy plan in the very busy plan of the church life. I will make shepherds and workers have mission plan and not a passion for mission. I will build many departments in the church and deacons, not forces of naughty rebel preachers and unruly disciples to human authorities and to church organizations, but obedient to God. They have asked me, do you bow down to God? Yes, when I pray, many times I bow down to worship God. Why you do that? Why you bow down? I bow down to man, to God, because I don't want to bow down to any man. That's why I do that. If I were the devil, I will do the most important thing in life, not to become the most important thing as the most important thing in life. Not to have the main thing to be the main thing in the main thing. If I were the devil, my friends, I will make Christians focus on this life and not the one that is going to come. Live for the temporal, not the eternal. Work your whole life for a few short years of retirement. Live for right now, because right now is all you have. Don't think about eternity. Don't think about accountability to God. Don't think that you are going to have to give an answer to God for how you live your life and spend your money and use your time. 2 Corinthians 4, verse 18. Why we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal. If I were the devil, I'd make the church think there is enough time, no haste, no worries. The believers will experience that there is no need for vigilance for the souls lost. I will give Christians deafness about other people's pain and problems. Robert Moffat has said, we'll have an eternity to celebrate our victories, but there is only one evening we have to left to win these victories. And we just are in the last pages of human history. If I were the devil, I will encourage Christians to pray for harvest, so they'll think they're doing their part for the big mission. Prayer for harvesting, my friends, is less effective than praying for the workers to go forward to harvest. John chapter 4, verse 35, from the mouth of the Lord. Say not, yea, there are yet 4 months, and then cometh harvest? Behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are white, all ready for harvest. That has been said from God himself, incarnated before 2,000 years ago. Today, we are not almost in the promised land. We have to get inside and conquer the promised land. If I were the devil, I will teach the Christians that the power of the Holy Spirit has been given to them to be blessed. I'd look to turn people's attention to the blessed part of the church. Bless me, praise me, send me, fill me, heal me, light me, build me, inspire me, please me, edify me, uplift me, tithe me, give me, teach me, offer, obey, submit, keep me, and sanctify me. Me, myself, and I. Acts chapter 1, verse 8. But you shall receive power after that the Holy Ghost is come upon you, and you shall be witnesses unto me both in Jerusalem and in Judea and in Samaria and to the uttermost part of the earth. That's the great difference, my friends. If I were the devil, I think I'd leave things the way they are right now, with or without coronavirus pandemic. But something is happening. In this last century, a generation has been raised to embrace Jesus' last commandment as the primary necessity. This is Satan's worst nightmare. Millions of Christians no longer fall into the trap, and I'm glad about this. For the first time in history, the finish line is on the horizon. 50% of the Africans are now Christians. Every week, almost 1 million in Latin America are being born again spiritually. 50% of the population in Guatemala, El Salvador, Brazil, Argentina are Christians born again. 40% of the population, Bolivia, Honduras, Brazil, are Christians who believe the Bible. In New Guinea, South Korea, and the Far East countries, every day, almost 100,000 people become Christians. 35,000 Chinese every day become Christian. China is the greatest, not mission, is the country that has analogically the greatest percentage of Christians. Now, why in China the pandemic? Because there is a missionary film, and devil will do anything. Here you see the graphics that Christianity is overwhelming. That's why the invasion of Islam in Europe through this crisis and through the war and climate change and all these baloney theories they try to persuade us. Revelation 12 verse 17, and the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. That's why, my friends, we're almost at the end. If Christ is in your heart, you're a missionary. Going and giving is the purpose of your invitation. If Jesus is not based in your heart, then you are a missionary film. Jesus in the heart means flame and passion to be a disciple, to be taught, jealously doing his will, and to live with him endlessly for the eternity. This is what means I have Jesus in my heart. Coming to an end, let us follow, if I dare to say, the example of the one who walked to Rome on the Appian Way to die for his faith. And in this dungeon, it was dark and damp jail known as the Mamertine prison, according to the tradition that Paul lived while awaiting his trial. And my friends, from this hero of faith, from this giant, may we heed these inspiring words penned by Paul from the Mamertine Roman prison, writing his spiritual child to Timothy. I'm already on the point of being sacrificed. The time of my departure has come. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. 2 Timothy chapter 4. We have to keep the faith till the end. The Lord is coming. I hope that this presentation was a small glimpse of light for you. And I will close with a small video, 2 minutes long, and I will say goodbye for that. And I hope that we will meet again. Like I said, it will be my joy to have a series of these presentations. We can talk and chat with each other, or even you may come here and enjoy our programs that we have in our mountains here, free. And like today, yesterday, April 3rd, 1968, this great hero of faith, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave his last speech. I don't know how many of you have seen that. He went down to the South to encourage the Negroes that they were on strike for a long time, not for money, not for anything, but for their right and privilege to be handled and treated like human beings. And this is his last speech. It's not more than 3 or 4 minutes. And as you will hear and see, this great leader, this preacher, the one that he said, when I will die, I don't want to be known as a doctor in theology, as a Nobel laureate. He received the Nobel Prize in 1963. As a great preacher of truth, I just want to be known and remembered as a child of God that followed Jesus Christ. And as you will see him, you will see when he's talking about his coming death, like he knew, he said that I want to live a long life, longevity has its place, but I don't care now. I fear no man. And as you will hear him crying because he has said that a good sermon is no more than 10 minutes that you can raise dead back to life. That's a good sermon. Not to make hypnotherapy for 1 hour or 2 hours on the Sabbath or on Sunday. Doesn't make the day difference, doesn't make at all. So it's very important for you what choice will you make today. Joshua said, choose you this day whom you will serve. Elijah said in the Mount Carmel, choose today if God is the Lord, but if Baal is the Lord, worship him. That's why I farewell to you, and I hope and pray that we will meet again. We are here, alive and kicking. We are rebels, if I dare to say, quote unquote, in God's business, and we will not stop. And like the old Spartan spirit, no retreat, no surrender. We march forward to conquer the promised land. God bless you. See that and take it home to you. Thank you.
All we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand some of these illegal injunctions. Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right. And so just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.